Good stuff. Thank you, and thanks for the introduction, and thanks everybody for joining. Like I was just telling before we started, when we initially started planning this session, we all expected webinars to be GA just a little bit earlier, and it wasn't until actually yesterday, I think, that I got the green light from Corp to actually do some demos. And there's not a lot of demo stuff available that I can show you without showing you too much, but we found something. So I think I'll have a fun demo for you to really show you what the webinars are capable of. The part that I enjoy the most is taking as many of your questions as I can. Feel free to pop them into the chat, and I'll try to look at them during the session. But also, if you want to speak up, I'm fine with raise hand and then giving you some power to mute and unmute. So thanks again for having me. My name is Michel Bouman. I work as a territory channel manager for Modern Work in Microsoft, which means that I'm looking at the trends in the market, trying to see what the opportunities are, but also looking at the needs of our customers, and then going back to our partner ecosystem and see who's building the right solutions on top of Microsoft technology, and then bringing those two worlds together. My main focus is on modern work, which is, if you really break it down, it's really Teams. Teams is a platform, and security. Please follow me on LinkedIn. There's a QR code here. I'll show it again at the end. And if you have any questions, you always know where to find me. That's also the place where I'm sharing a lot of the new stuff that's coming to Teams. I really like what we're doing now with Teams. And if you look at the spectrum of the communication needs with customers, so we had the one-to-one meetings and calls, and we had the live events. So the one-to-one meetings and calls are the meetings that we're in all day, every day. A little bit too much to our liking, maybe sometimes, especially now, since most of us are all still working from home. And you had the virtual events, which was events up to 10,000 people. And with the live event feature, you needed an e-license for that to run a live event. You had the delay. There was no real interaction except for the Q&A, so you didn't really have any back and forth chat or any reactions from the audience. But now with webinars, we're really looking to change that, and we'll talk a little bit about what we have now and then what's coming for webinars. I think you can have many different virtual events, right? So you have your town halls, which are basically all hands, the CEO or GM of a company trying to speak to her or his people, and just making sure that everybody stays connected and in line with the mission and with the culture that you have. And these are super important right now, especially since we are kind of disconnected from what's happening in our companies. So we're seeing a lot more of these town halls. We'll talk a lot about webinars in the next, let's say 25 to 30 minutes. But you could also do media broadcasts or even conferences. And I think Teams Nation is a great example, but also the conferences around with Build and Ignite and Inspire were now all running through Microsoft Teams. The parts that I want to focus on today are really the four main parts of what we call webinars in Teams. And for those asking, it's GA now. It was announced yesterday. It could take a couple of days, maybe 2 weeks, for it to be available in your tenant. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even in my demo tenant. It is luckily in my developer tenant that I'm using in Microsoft. So give it some time for it to be available in your tenant. But we did announce general availability for Teams yesterday evening, Central European time. So the four parts that we're going to be focusing on are registration, the experiences, the custom layouts, and then the attendee reporting that we're now getting in webinars. And now setting up webinars has become so easy. Before this, you had to make sure that you got some registration software. You needed to work, maybe even with an agency, to make sure that you were able to set up the registration pages, costing a lot of money, but also a lot of hassle for a lot of companies. And then it will be difficult to really get in-depth reporting on what's happening, and even more difficult to connect that straight into your marketing automation systems or into a Dynamics 365. But now that we have webinars in Microsoft 365, and I'll show you the SKUs that this is part of, near the towards the end. But now that we have everything in one suite, it's going to be super easy for you to set up those one-to-one or team meetings, big live events, but now also the webinars. So some of the things that are coming, we've really optimized the experience to reach up to 20,000 people, and this 20,000 is up to the end of this year. After that, it will be 10,000. And how this is going to happen is you'll be able to host webinars for 1,000 people. So we could now have 1,000 people on this session alone. If more people will join, they would come into the overflow room. So if you ever been to one of these big conferences and the room was full, you had to go to the overflow room. But this is also the experience that you'll be getting in webinars. So the first 1,000 will be able to come in. They will be able to participate, ask questions, raise their hand, give reactions. I'll show some of that in a second. And then the other 9, or this year 19,000, will be in the overflow room, and they'll be able to listen in to what's happening. Kind of the feeling that we now have with these live events. I think a big announcement. This was already in the preview builds that we have, or the preview channel that we have, is also the announcement that now PowerPoint Live is officially generally available. So you should see, if you don't have the preview channel on, you should see the new PowerPoint Live feature in your tenant in any second. I think this is a very important one. So let me use a couple of examples of things that you can do. So really, if you want to share PowerPoint slides, not sure why this is audio. If you want to share PowerPoint slides, there are really 3 ways to do it, right? So the first way is to share your whole screen. It's not the best experience. I often get the answer, how can I still see all the people that are in the call? How can I still see chat if I'm sharing my my screen? Well, you can't if this is the way that you are currently sharing. The second option to share your PowerPoint slides is to only share a window. And by the way, this is the new share tray that we are now rolling out. Is to share a window. This will only share that one window that you decide to share. But again, if you don't have multiple screens, you won't be able to see any of the stuff that's happening. The best way to do is to use this new PowerPoint Live feature. You'll see the list as you see here on the screen, and this comes straight out of your OneDrive. And if you don't have a file on your OneDrive, you can just browse your computer and then upload it straight from your computer. Now, if we would just go here, but let me show this because there's a new cool button coming into PowerPoint. If you go to the top right, you'll see a new button that says Present in Teams. You just click the button, and if we switch back to Teams, you'll see the Present button here. And now the PowerPoint file will start loading. And this, what you see here, is the new PowerPoint Live feature. So you see the speaker notes here on the right. You can switch slides. There's even an Easter egg in this screenshot, which I'm showing a little bit too much now, but this is something that is coming really soon. Also, if you want to have somebody else present, it's going to be super easy to present. So let me show that right now. So with PowerPoint Live, you will have a full control over your content, and the view you see as a presenter is yours only. So you can review notes, engage in chat. So the chats are still open. I'm loving the live reactions, by the way. Thank you. All in one panel view. And this private view really allows the presenter to see everything in one place, while the audience only sees the slides. Another thing is the seamless transition between presenters. You hear it often, right? Could you please move to the next slide? And that's something that I don't like. It kind of breaks up the flow of a presentation if you go from one presenter to the other. Now people just simply take control and they can start presenting. Obviously, this is only available for those that are presenters on these webinars, but you can also use this in your regular meetings. So it's really a seamless take control instead of constantly asking, can you please move to the next slide? Now, the other part is the super exciting presenter mode. We announced this yesterday as well, that this is going to be launching later this month. And this is the latest innovation in Teams that empowers you to customize how your video feed and content appear to the audience. So see, and the speaker can reduce the cognitive overload for audiences. They can also read the nonverbal cues of the presenter. And this will soon come in 3 different variations. So this is one. Then we'll have the interviewer mode, with which the slides will be, or reporter mode, I'm sorry, in which the slides will be behind the person. I think I have a screenshot of that somewhere to share in a few slides. And then the last one is the side-by-side view, which is also going to be available. And this is, again, is going to be rolling out later in this month. Now, also, like I said, I really love the interaction. It gives the audience an opportunity to interact. So often you're on a presentation, you're watching something, and there is a link, for example, on the deck. You can now just simply click the link that's on the slide. And there's more stuff coming here. We showed it yesterday, where you can even translate the slides on the spot. So somebody can pick their own language, and then the slides will translate from whatever language the slides are into the language of the person that wants to see us. It just really redefines the way that people engage with presentations, and especially when it comes to holding the viewer's attention during a meeting. The other one is the live reactions, and I'm seeing that some of you are already using it. So I'm loving the emotion, the emojis. So with the emojis, people can share the reactions. And again, this is all coming into webinars. So not just the regular meetings, but also in webinars. The things that I find toughest now, I love to be on stage, but the fact that I'm not having the interaction with you as a viewer is making it more difficult for me, even as somebody that's on stage quite a lot, to really catch how you're feeling about this session. So smashing up those emojis really bring that vibe back to the team. And I think the last advantage of all of this is the higher quality that you'll get when using the PowerPoint Live feature over just sharing your screen or sharing just one view. So whether you join via a mobile phone or maybe even an 8K monitor, each attendee experiences the presentation that's optimized for their screen type. So all the text and animations are super crisp, and this also makes it a lot more easier to share stuff such as video. I think another big advantage of the webinar interface over the live event interface is that you can now have real-time polls, and I'll show that in the demo as well. So you can have real-time polls and surveys for even more interactive webinars. And I think that interaction part, if you look at some research that we've done, after like 18 or 20 minutes of watching your screen, your brain just gets distracted and fatigued. Right, so bringing those real-time polls into your session really brings that meeting to life and keeps the attendees' attention. I think super important is the attendee registration page and the email confirmation. So when you set up a webinar, you can, from Teams, create your own registration page with a URL that you can then share in your email communication. Maybe you want to post it on LinkedIn or any other platform, and people can use it. And once somebody signs up, they'll get a confirmation in their email. They'll be able to put it on their calendar and then join straight from there. Again, you don't have to purchase any extra software now to get the registration pages up. You can do it all straight from Teams, and you probably already have the product in your hands right now, so you don't need to purchase any add-ons. I think another important one is more structure and control for the events. You can assign roles for presenters and attendees, like we're doing now, disabling the chat for meetings and only require audio and video for those that are presenting. You can spotlight people in here as well, as you see on this screenshot. So the 2 presenters here are currently spotlighted, so you'll have the content and you only see the 2 videos of the presenters, and you won't see all the videos of all the people that are in there. Now, obviously, if you decide you want everybody to show their video, you could still have it on for everybody, and everybody can kind of see each other. After your webinar, you obviously want to know who attended, who didn't, how long did they attend, when did they sign up, etc. So after you've hosted your webinar, you can go to the reporting page, and we're going to roll this out in two different phases, I believe. But you can go to the reporting page. You can see who signed up, who actually joined, how long did people join, etc. And the cool stuff about this is you can already implement it straight into Dynamics 365. And then going forward, we'll also make available APIs to connect it to your favorite marketing automation system. That won't be released right away. I think we'll have some exciting announcements on this during build, which will take place, I believe, is the 23rd and 24th of May. So look forward to that. Some even more features are coming to webinars really soon. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and you really want to do broadcasting, it's great to start enabling NDI. I'm a big fan of using production tools such as OBS to really create very interactive sessions where you can switch between multiple cameras, switch between multiple screens, bring multiple people together, and you do this by enabling NDI. This has to happen, by the way, on both an admin level and on the user level. You can click the link here if this is something you want to get started with. But just to give you an idea of the possibilities that you have, so all of the presenters and moderators can just simply join from their laptop, either with a professional camera or with their webcam. They could even join from their phone, and you can use that stream and really have a studio production team create these different views. You see a few examples here on the bottom, 4 different people, your logo, 2 different people. There are all kinds of options, and if you want to get your feet wet with this option, I think it's best to start with OBS Studio and play around with it just a little bit. And if you need a couple of examples, go over to my YouTube page. And we did quite a few sessions, me along with one of my peers, Denzel Fernandez. We did a few demos on how you can use this in regular meetings, but also in webinar sessions. So you might want to ask, okay, so what's the big difference between Teams meetings and Teams live events? I think this says it all, right? For me, Teams meetings and meetings for me is also webinars. Is what live events is, and even more. So you get the registration page, you get the advanced monitoring of admins and presenters, you get the APIs, you get the attendee reporting, you get the engagement dashboard, you get the custom layouts. So there's a lot of stuff coming into meetings. So I think for most webinars that you're going to be hosting, I think that webinars will be the way to go over live events. So let's jump into a demo. And like I said when we started this session, all of this is it's not even in the demo tenants, but I have something here that I can share with you all. So what you see here is a Teams environment. What you see here is the Teams environment, and we're going to go up here to the top right. And you'll now soon see the new webinar option. So you can click here and you can start adding your titles. So let's say we want to do a webinar around drones. So we'll have drone technology today. We're going to be adding our presenters. Alex is always there when we do these sessions. And we're going to set the date. Let's pick April 22nd. Up here, you'll see the response option. So you'll be able to request responses and allow or disallow forwarding. And you can change this later as well, and I'll show you that in a second. And then you can say, I want to require registration. Now you could do that for no one. You could do it for only people in your org. So even if you want to host a webinar internally, you could still use the registration pages to kind of know who will be attending and who won't be attending. But let's set this to for everyone. So everyone with the registration, everybody that wants to take part in this session has to go through the registration form. Now let's click here and view the registration form. And here you see that you can create your own form. So this, what you see here, is already available out of the box. Let's add a speaker. So Alex will be our speaker. Let's even add a few more fields. So out of the box, you'll get first name, last name, and email, but you might want to add address, city, or let's add a custom question. Add a choice to see what their knowledge is about drones. So how familiar are you with drone technology today? Let's fill out 3 options. Very familiar, somewhat familiar, and add the 3rd option, which is I am not familiar with drone technology as well. Again, this will show you, and this will give you all these answers, so you kind of know what to prepare for and kind of know what your audience is going into the session. You can upload your image. So let's find a drone image, drag it in there. Make sure it aligns. Let's click done. And here you have the registration page that is ready to go. We're just gonna copy the registration link, which we're gonna be sharing with the presenters. Let's click save. And now the registration page is ready. Let's close this here. And let's see, send it. Obviously, we have to save it. And as you see, it's now on the calendar. You also see the little webinar icon on the bottom right of the screen. Now let's edit this, because you get quite a few extra options now with the webinar functionality. So you can say who can bypass the lobby, because you might not want to have people on the call that are not invited. So you could say, I want to have everyone, you know these probably from regular meetings, people in my org only, trusted orgs. But in this case, I want to invite everybody and turn off allow forwarding the meeting invite, because I only want the people that I've invited to the Drone Technology Today webinar. Now, who can present? You know this from meetings as well. I only want Alex to be able to present, so Alex will show up as a presenter, and the rest will show up as an attendee. People won't be allowed to unmute. They won't be allowed to enable the camera. You could even say, hey, let's automatically record the session. Now let's scroll down and click save. And now we just changed all the meeting options for this webinar. Okay, so we've posted the event on LinkedIn. So Megan has put it on her LinkedIn. We here at Contoso are excited to announce a new product lineup. As you see here in the post, people can register here. So let's click and let's change personas. So this is Delia, and Delia sees the field right here. So she's going to enter her first name, Delia Fitzgerald, her email address. And again, the question that we just put in here, how familiar are you with drone technology today? Well, I am somewhat familiar with drone technology. She's going to register. Now, if we move, as you see, there's a confirmation. If we go into her email, you see that she has received an email. You've registered for drone technology today. Let's join the event. And as she joins, she's now part of the session. Let's jump back. We'll get back to Delia in a second, but let's look at the experience of those that are going to be hosting the session. So we're going to join just like you would join a regular meeting. You can see that there are already 30 people in the meeting. The mic is muted. Let's enlarge this. Let's view the lobby. You know this again from regular meetings. Again, we've set this to only people that are actually invited to the session. Let's admit everybody to the session. So now everybody is going to be part of this. I'm still muted, so let's turn on Alex's camera and let's start sharing PowerPoint. And this is what I've showed you earlier. Here you want to go look for the presentation from PowerPoint Live. Browse your OneDrive. Normally, you would see your last few presentations here. Let's browse OneDrive. Find the deck. And here we are in the new view. As you can see, you'll still have the option to look at the chat. And also, I spoke about polls earlier. So now you can go down to the 3 dots and add your applications, right? So these are the Teams applications that you might already be using today. But let's use polls as an example. So we're going to click polls. We're going to enter a poll question. So did you learn something new about drones today? Yes, absolutely. Or I'm already an expert with the little emoji. I'm going to click next. and we're going to be able to send this straight into the session again to keep the interaction during the webinars going. Let's stop presenting. So once the presentation is over, again you can see the presenter notes on the screen. You could change all the slides here if you want to, but let's stop presenting and let me show you the presenter mode. So you have a few icons here. So this is standout. This is the reporter mode, and as soon you'll also have the side-by-side mode being available. We're going to click standout, share window. We're going to share the presentation. Here we have Alex waving at us all. He's going to present, and here you have Alex in front of the slides presenting the new kickoff of the new Contoso Mark 8 drone. Now we're going to leave this, and let's look at this from Delia's perspective. So she's the one that is joining the meeting. She's interested to find out more about this new drone technology. So she's going to join. You can see that she's currently in the lobby. Let's enlarge her screen. And now she's here. You can see that she's, it popped up really briefly that she's an attendee. You can see that all the mics are muted. All the video is off. Again, this came from the meeting options. And as you can see, she can now see Alex's his presentation, and she won't see all the presenter notes that Alex is showing. You'll still be able to see the emojis. So let's give Alex a big thumbs up. But you could also go to the poll that was sent on the chat. And yes, absolutely, she learned something new, and she's submitting her vote. Now the webinar is over, and let's look at the attendee list. You see the registrations here on the left, but let's go to the top right and look at the attendee list. And here you see all the people that viewed the registration page, the amount of people that have actually registered, those that have canceled, and those that have attended, start and time, the duration. Well, you see everything here. And Delia, she was here. She even attended. This is the time that she registered. But you also see Edmund down here, and Edmund did register, but he did not attend the session. Again, you can export this now straight into Dynamics 365, and soon we'll have the APIs available for you to bring that into your own marketing automation systems. So that's the demo. Let's jump back into the last few slides before we go to the last 10 minutes and look at the Q&A. So let's move forward here. Most important thing, no add-ons needed. So if you have an E3, E5, A3, or A5 license, you will have both live events and webinar functionality. No need to purchase anything, right? So you'll get 1,000 person meetings or webinars, and then 2,000 people that can view. If you have a business standard, and this is new, if you have a business standard license or a business premium license, you will get the full webinar functionality. No need to purchase any add-ons. The only difference between enterprise and standard from a functionality perspective is that if you have an SMB or a business SKU, the limit is not 1,000, it is 300. Which is in line with most of the things that we have in standard. So no add-ons needed. So if you look at it from a cost perspective, webinar costs are higher than you might think. So the higher amount of people, the more cost you'll have for scale, hosting controls, experiences, registration, reporting, etc. If you look at Teams, and we just use the cost of the E3 license per month here, the only cost you will have to host webinars will be the $20 per month, and that's it. So no extra costs. It's already in the license that you already have. Let me take you to a little bit of the roadmap to give you an idea. So what we have just announced is mutant attendees, adding polls to meetings, PowerPoint integration, and raise hands. That's in there. Yesterday, and this slide is 1 day too old. Yesterday, we announced GA for 1,000 person events, registration and email, host controls, 20,000 person view only broadcast, and the attendee reporting. What we're going to be adding later this month are the presenter layouts and the speaker spotlight. So that's going to be released really soon. The expectation is somewhere later this month. So this month, the month of May. And then if we look forward, because I can tell you, and those that are on the call that are MVPs and were at the Teams MVP Summit, there's a lot more coming for webinars in the next few months. A lot of exciting stuff to really take you to that next level. And again, it's all in the product that you have already purchased. So that's it for me. Let me go into Q&A. Again, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, this is the way to this is the place to be. Let me switch cameras and let me turn this off for a second so I can look at you all. There we go. Let me look at the Q&A real quick. And if you have a question and you want to raise your hand, we'll be able to unmute you and you'll be able to ask your questions. How did you build this awesome presentation? Thank you so much for that compliment. The Corp team is simply amazing, right? The switching back and forth I do in OBS for more interactive sessions. But thanks for the compliment. PowerPoint Live, would it at some time be possible to browse for your PowerPoint in your Teams and channels and not only in your OneDrive and computer? Interesting question. If you go to, I haven't tested this, but soon, if you go into Teams and you open the PowerPoint, you will have that Present in Teams button. Right, so you can just simply go into the channel that you have the presentation in, click the presentation, and then select Present in Teams. What's the time limit for webinars? How to go beyond 4 hours? I don't think there's a time limit for webinars. You can go on for quite long. I don't have the exact numbers. Let me get back to that for you. Will it be possible to enable external users to be presenters in a webinar? Yes, it will. As a matter of fact, this is going to be a lot easier in live events as well. There's a new toggle that allows you to add external presenters, so you don't have to enroll them as a guest into your Azure AD first. That's going to be just ticking a box and then entering their email address. So yes, that's going to be available just like you would do it in a regular meeting, right? So right now, I'm not in the Teams Nation tenant. I'm in the Microsoft tenant, and I'm here as a presenter. How about breakout rooms in webinars? Yes, breakout rooms in webinars is going to be possible as well. Michel, you gave us awesome info. Can you tell a bit more about A1 academic plan uses scenarios? I'm sorry, I can't. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn to and be a bit more specific with that question. I would love to follow up for you, but I don't have a lot of knowledge about the A1 licenses. So please reach out on LinkedIn, and I'll put back up the slides in a second, along with the feedback form. Where's the registered versus attended difference coming from, please? Are presenters included? The difference between registered and attendant is basically what it says, right? So I can register for an event, but you always have like 15, 20, 25% of no-show. So the difference between registered and attendant is the no-show. We'll do any word on when Teams webinars will be coming to GCC. I have not seen that date, but I'm expecting some news on that during build. Is it possible to have more than one organizer? So the thing is, it's an interesting question, especially in relation to breakout rooms, I think. And I think that's where the question is coming from. The answer now is no for breakout rooms, but breakout rooms version 2 is going to be really exciting. So we just announced last week or the week before that if you've created a breakout room, it'll stay in that meeting. The next phase is Breakout Room version 2. I'm hoping that we're going to show more on that during build at the end of May. That's really exciting stuff. Can you add a presenter while webinar is ongoing? Will you get any additional application services under the M365 E3 or E5 license? Yes, so you can add anybody as a presenter during the webinars. So let's say I'm just looking for a name. Michael is raising his hand. So we could make Michael a presenter right now during this session. Any additional services under the M365 E3 or E5 license? Not in regards to webinars, because you don't need any additional services. Yeah, somebody noted there in the screen capture. Hey, Michael, in the screen capture, there are more attendees than registrations. That's why I was wondering. With registration mandatory, is attending without registering possible then? No, the answer is no. So that's probably a bug. Michael, thanks for raising your hand. I think you're not able to unmute yourself yet. So if somebody could, yes, there we go. Yeah, go ahead.
Now it seems to be working, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. Great stuff. Just want to ask you, what's your recommendation to play a video on the webinar? Is it to embed it in the PowerPoint and then play it from the PowerPoint live, or is it better to share it from screen?
No, I would do it embedded in the PowerPoint and then do it through PowerPoint Live. But I also see you're an XSplit VCam user. I think I just noticed that for the backgrounds. If you've been playing around with OBS a little bit and you really want to take it to that advanced scenario, I could advise you to play around with NDI and OBS.
Yeah, I have done it, but I really want to know if I play it from PowerPoint Live, is it delivered from the cloud? Because when yes. I do it by OBS, I have to send it through my stuff to my connection to the because if it goes from the PowerPoint Live, I hope it's be delivered from the cloud, so it doesn't rely on my connection.
Yeah, that's a great question. So and that's where the performance enhancement from PowerPoint Live is coming from, right? So PowerPoint Live is being pulled from the cloud, from your OneDrive, which is in the cloud. And that's also the reason why, if you wouldn't have the file on your OneDrive, and maybe you remember when I showed you the small demo of how to add a PowerPoint file if it's not in your OneDrive, you can just browse your computer. What will happen is it'll upload the presentation to the cloud first. So it might take a few seconds for it to be available, but then once it's available, the quality is going to be a lot more crisp than if you would present it from your own device.
That's what I experienced. Do you know if there is some delays or some caching? So when you update your slides with video, is it immediately available, or does it take some time until it's updated?
Yeah, so in my experience, once you save it, it's available. If you've already started sharing it, and then you make edits during the session, that will not load. Right, so you have to save it before, and it's probably auto-saved because it's OneDrive anyhow. If it's saved and then you present it into Teams, it's going to be there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much,
Michael. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Let me check this out real quick. And let me bring back in the slides because I know I had to do some things to get the feedback up as well. Again, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, feel free to send me the invite. I'm sharing a bunch of content on there. So this is the QR code to the LinkedIn page, and please fill out the feedback form. So please rate my session. I would love to hear what you think about it. Somebody's asking me, how did you put the real-time clock on your video at the moment? I use a tool called OBS, which will allow me to, I never know which way to point, to allow me to add a timer here, but also add my name right here. So it's an external tool that I use. So with that, thank you. Thanks so much to the Teams Nation team for this wonderful event. If I look at the amount of registrations, it's really an amazing event, as it is every year. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Enjoy the rest of Teams Nation, and I'm looking forward to see you somewhere in the flesh in the next coming months or years. So thanks a lot, and take care.